Coming up next on the SPNN Forum, we have Dameun Strange, co-producer of Live from Minnesota, part of the Minneculture program. Hi, I'm Martin Ludden, Executive Director of the St. Paul Neighborhood Network, and we are here in the Kwame McDonald studio at SPNN with Dameun Strange, co-producer of Live from Minnesota and the Minneculture program. Dameun, welcome to the forum.
Thank you, Ryan.
So what is, and I know we've partnered on this between SPNN and Live from Minnesota, but can you tell us what is Live from Minnesota?
Sure. Live Minnesota, as you mentioned, is part of KFAI's Minneculture program, which are little documentaries that KFAI produces, kind of focused on Minnesota and the people and the activities here. And Live from Minnesota specifically is focused on music creators in the Twin Cities, things that people and bands who we think are hot right now, or that we think you should be checking out.
Right on. Yeah. Like hot and notable. I know we had Kiss the Tiger in a couple years ago, and just have been fun watching them kind of blow up. I saw the Hold Steady at First Ave a couple of months back, and they opened, and it's like, all right, hey, I've seen them in our studio. Thanks, Live from Minnesota. So who, like, I know we had the Muwatas recently. Can you talk a little bit about them? Like, where do they come from?
Yeah, Muwatas, they're one of my favorite acts right now. Their sound is really reminiscent of like a little post-punk and industrial, little shoegazer in there. And they're a couple that live in the Twin Cities. They grew up on the south side of Chicago and have been doing music for, maybe like 30 years together or so.
Yeah.
But, they grew up in that scene in Chicago, which, they pointed out in the documentary was very diverse as they were growing up. So they pulled from all these different influences, but they were doing sort of industrial and dance stuff, post-punk back then.
Yeah.
And then they moved to the Twin Cities with a friend of theirs, John Scott, and was in sort of an industrial band in the 90s. And they opened up for folks like 9 Inch Nails before they blew up and things like that. So yeah, they've been at it for a while. But this new project is just them making music together, and really, I found them to be really inspiring during the pandemic. Just really found their music to speak to where I was coming from and the emotions that I was having. It's I think a lot of the young people may see it relating to emo in a sense. It's like,
that's fine.
You kind of see that in younger artists more, but this felt like emo for me.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I think there's a whole genre right now of like kids of elder millennials, like rediscovering like some of that, like that emo stuff, and like actually really digging it, and kind of doing that whole like, oh, my parents had good taste at some point.
Right.
Yeah. How was, so as a musician yourself, as a composer, how does that, what does that mean for you to be taking in like what these folks crafted? I'm sure some during the pandemic, and does that reflect into your work also?
Yeah, I especially the Muwatas, I would say, just listening to their sound, and Cam is the guitarist, and I really was I was very much attracted to, again, like I said, his sort of the fuzz and the white noise in his sound, and I did find a little bit of that creeping into my guitar sound.
Nice.
Even I was very happy to be able to actually check out his pedal board when he was here.
Pedal boards are a rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was like, oh, you have that, you're using that. Okay, now I see what you're doing with your sound. But even some of the themes that they had around sort of the struggles of being an artist or being, I think, being a Black person in America. Right now, where they very much appeal to me.
So how much choice, I mean, do you get to kind of scout and be out there and say like, yep, these guys, like what
That's
else,
really,
what's in the wings?
That's the fun part of the job is
Mm-hmm.
really either being out in the scene, going to shows and finding new stuff, or just like checking in with other artists that I know and say, what are you listening to? Have you heard anything really interesting? Miguel is Vargas, my co-producer.
Mm-hmm.
He's at KFAI full time, and I know that he's always out on the scene, going to everything. So I have relied on him a lot as well. And I mean, there's so much happening. I'm really excited to see kind of what came out of the pandemic. I think people had a lot of time to sit in woodshed on their instruments, and I think there's a shift coming because of that too.
So do you and Miguel like that? I'm a not even I would say recovering scene kid, but I had kids and I don't go out anymore.
Yeah,
so
it's hard. It's hard when you.
But I know it's changed. I mean, the Twin Cities has always had a great kind of rock and kind of indie scene and hip hop that I've seen and been part of in some places, and like it's a hugely diverse musically.
Yeah.
But do you and Miguel do you split genres, or how does that how do you cover? Yeah. How do you cover it?
I thought, initially when we first started working together, I thought that would be the case. But it turns out that we're both sort of interested in such a wide variety of music. I don't think Miguel really has like a style that is, something that he just focuses on. And likewise, I'm a fan of so many different types of music. That I think that's the hard part,
right?
for us. It's just like, no, we're not focusing on that. And a couple of the groups we were looking at, I won't name the ones that didn't get in, but we brought a few groups to the table that the other had on the list. So there were these outliers, but pretty much we were like in the middle of what we thought was like really kind of cool right now, or wasn't getting as much play as we thought it should get. So we still have a huge list of artists that we hope to get in the program soon.
Yeah. So it's about artists, but it's also, we were talking a little bit beforehand about venues, and like kind of highlighting some venues. And like I think about, in the time that I was going to shows, just if you go around KFAI, the Triple Rock is gone.
Yes.
Five Corners, which was then the Nomad, is gone.
Yes.
The 400 Bar is gone.
400.
Like the Cedar's still there, but and Palmer's, of course, has kind of come up as a venue.
Yeah.
But like, where are you finding music, and what's that look like, kind of venue wise?
Wow. You hit the nail on the head there. There is, it is shifting a lot. I know, again, Caballo Cosmico, we did their show at Hook and Ladder. Yeah. But I know that they have started to expand their what they're putting on there and programming there.
Because they were pretty focused on like blues and roots.
They were
for a while.
Almost solely focused on blues and roots, which was kind of difficult for the scene because when, before the Hook and Ladder, it was Patrick's, and Patrick's was such an eclectic booking venue. Yeah. Like you could see pretty much anything there, and maybe on the same night. Right. And I think maybe the Hook and Ladder is becoming more connected to the community and seeing, understanding the scene more and the diversity of the scene. So that's one spot that I think is really opening up. You mentioned the West Bank again, and Acadia, which is now closed, unfortunately, due to
because of the
bus that went through their window. Yeah. But I feel like that's another spot on the West Bank that's coming up along with Palmer's. But it's kind of hard these days. Yeah. A lot of the scene has become a part of a conglomerate, if you will. Various conglomerates have taken over booking a lot of the smaller venues. So I know for me, booking has been challenging, and I'm kind of like you where I used to be gigging probably more frequently and in the scene more, and having a young child too, I've kind of pulled back from that. So I really don't know how artists are getting booked and where the new places are these days. So I do rely on social media a lot more. Instagram, people are always throwing things up on Instagram. So I'm just tracking where folks are going.
Yeah, I was in a band for like 10 minutes in the early 2000s. And so like, I'm just thinking back, like the Dinky Towner gone. What was the Station 4?
Station 4
that one.
St. Paul.
Which used to be right across the street from the old SPNN.
Yeah, right.
There's just like, there were so many little venues, both like as a consumer.
Yeah.
Like you could go to so many places and see so much cool music.
Yeah.
And like there's still a scene, but it does feel like it's changed.
It is changing. I feel like a lot of people are developing their own spots. And then, we had Miss Pinky and the Gray Fox on this season of Live from Minnesota 2. And we had them at Public Functionary.
And that's not a like just a venue, right? They've got a bunch of stuff.
It's a whole scene. Public Functionary is they have been primarily, they started off in a little gallery space in Northeast Minneapolis, and that little gallery started doing really interesting things. I saw I think the first time I saw Lady Midnight was there, and she had done this really interesting sort of theatrical music event. Really bringing in sort of the full scope of the arts there. And I actually did my first opera there in the old space. And I think that has, kind of opened them up to what they could be for the community of artists. And now they have this huge venue in the North of King building in Northeast Minneapolis with several studios throughout the building as well. But the new venue is this huge open space that's very modular. They have their own cafe there too. So I think that there's more places like that. There's also like Dream Song in Northeast that is still more of like a small gallery space, but they do really interesting music things in that space too. So you're seeing less bars,
right?
Which is weird, but more of sort of modular art spaces doing shows now.
Us as we are, grant us full pardon from the blame that has a right to these clothes that I am wearing are the wounds that come from breaking down the cycles. step that I have taken in surrender to an ancient will to pass me, fighting this fate, equal for friend or foe. I am not your enemy. Let your ego go. Hate strong here, and I know love belongs here. Let the light and dark restore the bond here. And do it for love, 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 do it for love. Hey, us as we are, grant us full pardon from the blame that has a right to.
We're here on the SPNN Forum with Dameun Strange, who co-produces Live from Minnesota, which is part of the Minneculture program with KFAI. We're just talking about how like the number of like maybe traditional like bar venues has gone down, but there's more like gallery space. And I think like that feels in a lot of ways maybe more inclusive, you know, because like if folks who don't drink, which is growing,
Yes.
you know, a bar is not necessarily
Especially
a,
post-pandemic.
yeah,
Yeah.
a friendly place to go.
Yeah.
And then you host that in a gallery space, and it brings together. You're talking about the Moatas come out of that that Chicago scene.
Yeah.
Like it's a little more interdisciplinary,
Yeah.
intersectional, maybe even
Yeah.
across art forms.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you're seeing that in a lot of places. My most recent full-time job was at the American Composers Forum, and you're seeing that,
Yeah.
in Chicago, which maybe that is not new for Chicago because they've had such a really eclectic music scene and venue scene for a long time. But in New York and DC, Philly, like just more cross-disciplinary artists, like artists that aren't just like rockers or whatever.
Right.
They're doing video. In fact, Mwada's background video was done by Ayana.
Oh.
She did
Cool.
the
Yeah.
visuals for that. So you're seeing that more, and it just it seems obvious that that's the direction that maybe music is going, and they're outside of the bars and things like that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, I guess I don't know quite enough music history to know, but I mean, you look at like the folk movement came out of coffee shops,
Yeah.
not bars.
Yeah.
Or like kind of that rebirth in the 60s. So maybe it's all cyclical, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, and I think music is becoming maybe more like that too. You think of like the late '60s, early '70s, and think of like groups like Velvet Underground, and the things that they were doing. I think you're seeing sort of a rebirth of artists doing that sort of thing as well. Yeah.
It's interesting. You were talking about the guitars for the Moatas and the like kind of the pedal setup, but it's the stuff you can do now between like pedals and modelers and all that,
Oh my gosh, yes.
and like the soundscape you can create with an electric guitar. Like you wouldn't know if you didn't know.
Right.
To listen to it, to be like, oh, that's a person with a guitar.
Oh my goodness, Mark! Like I have to tell you, I got into like a little spat with a synth group I'm in on Facebook because they had quoted Kanye West and said, "A guitar, there's nothing a guitar can do that I can't do in Fruity Loops," and they were totally bashing the guitar. So I was just like, "Well, I play both, and there's nothing that a synth can do that I can't do on guitar." I think they kicked me out of the group, but I do think that they're like the guitar is very versatile now.
Yeah.
Like you said, with all the modules, and again, like I've been really inspired by Cam Wada and the stuff that he's done. And my pedal board grew over COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also, coming out of COVID, it was hard. I tried with a buddy. We still haven't figured it out. How to like collaborate remotely over GarageBand or something. Like it can be done, but we couldn't figure it out. So you wind up, I think, a lot of times playing for yourself.
Yeah.
And like figuring out how to do some of those layers and like just creating.
Yeah.
Because you gotta.
Yeah.
And like that comes now. We're seeing that come out in public.
Yeah. And I mean, not to focus solely on the Muadas.
Right.
That was kind of their thing. They, they didn't have a drummer or anything, so they have these backing tracks that were, to me, it's really well done. Like if that was like, we didn't have this, so we're using this. Like it actually kind of created a sound that I thought was very modern and cool. But that's kind of how their sound ended up developing. And I think Mrs. Pinky and the Great Fox too are mostly just the duo that add on musicians. Depending on the show.
So let's give them some love too. What is Ms. Pinky and the Gray Fox like? What's their jam? How do they do what they do?
So they the primary artist Taylor. They are a composer songwriter. Who has music in their blood. And I think the band is named after their parents, who were, I think, jazz musicians, if I'm not mistaken, and have been writing this really interesting sort of, I would call it I guess, neo-soul, but more on the lounge side of it. So again, like I think their ideal place is not necessarily a traditional bar.
Right.
What we did with them ended up being more like a tiny desk concert where they were in the studio space that Public Functionary has in the Northrop King building, not in their larger space, but a space that they have for photographers and producers who don't have their own spaces to go, and just invited a few of their friends in to kind of sit around and listen to this very chill, laid back set, which is perfect for their sound.
Nice.
I would say their sound is perfect for now.
Right.
like if you're sweating the heat today, and you want to feel chill, and you put on Miss Pinky and the Gray Fox to kind of like cool down on a day like today.
When I go back to my desk, I will fire that up.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, so also this season, and that was the Muatas, Ms. Pinky and the Gray Fox, and then Caballo Cosmico. Is that the entirety of this season, or is there more?
That's the entirety of this season, because the Live from Minnesota program and Minneculture itself is funded by the State Arts Board.
Yes.
And as you know, that our budget ended on June 30th, or the year ended on June 30th. So we got those in at the end of the year. But we're ready to start up again for this fiscal year. And I think we're in the process of doing another shoot that will be a part of Northside Flow. And then the event that they'll be having. So we'll be filming that and having that available on KFAI as well.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about Caballo Cosmico. What is that? I mean, I can hear what I think it might be just from the name, but
I mean, the sound, Javier, who's the leader of that group, has been around playing for, again, a number of years in the scene, and it's sort of on the Latin rock tip. And the name itself, as you said, like kind of evokes this sort of Santana-like, sound. It is really
Cosmic Cowboy, right?
Cosmic Cowboy. This really cool psychedelic Latin. I still call it funk, Latin rock or Latin funk.
Right.
And it's a full on band, which you don't get a lot of anymore.
Well, it's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of people to try and coordinate.
Yeah, I had a little group for a while that was kind of a nonette or an octet sometimes, and trying to get that back together after COVID, it just had not happened. So again, to have a band like Caballo Cosmico is a testament to the love of the music and the work and Javier's songwriting, I think. And again, you think of the summer, you're thinking of festivals. Like, I think that their sound is the perfect festival sound.
Cool.
And they should be playing at every street festival that we have in our state and in town for sure. Because it's one of those sounds that that no matter where you're from, like, you can kind of find your thing.
You have to move.
You have to
if
move.
you hear it. Yeah.
You have to move. You know, and it's. It reminds me of like my early days in the Twin Cities and how we used to have like Cedar Fest and the bands that used to play those places like that. That's what I think of when I listen to Caballo Cosmico.
Yeah, Cedar Fest. I mean, Grand Old Day. It was always a big day of music too.
A lot of those things are gone away too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, we sound really old.
But we have. Well, the interesting thing is that they got replaced by these huge things like or these spaces like what is it? Surly.
Yeah.
That's another place where, you get to like the local bands opening up for the larger bands, but now you have spaces like that,
right?
At least in the summer, that you can kind of take part of, and take part of music, the scene, and have your beer on the side too. But that's where I feel like a lot of like the music is, or opening at Cedar is still one of the larger clubs that, as you mentioned, that you can still, and I think they are actually programming more local acts. And, I think that was kind of due to David Hamilton, who's not the ED anymore, but I know that was a focus of his there. And you can see that continuing on now. Yeah.
If folks want to find more about, both about this season of Live from Minnesota and then those individual bands, what's the best place to go find that?
I would say the best place is probably the KFAI website under the Minneculture, so the banner there. And I think all of the, SPNN has.
Yes, we do. We have some of those videos as well.
Have those videos as well. And I think on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So that's KFAI.org.
The KFAI.org.
KFAI website.
Yes.
And then youtube.com/myspnn will get you to our video work. But you can find them both in the same, that's the same work in two different places.
Right.
And are these bands that we'd find on Spotify or Bandcamp, or is there a better way to get their music?
Bandcamp for sure. I think that everyone of these groups is at least on Bandcamp. But Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music,
cool.
But certainly Bandcamp, because most of the money goes directly to the artist.
Yes, that's a good call out. And when you go to shows, buy merch.
Yes, buy merch.
Buy merch, buy records, buy CDs, go to Bandcamp, support local music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dameun, thank you. This has been tons of fun, wide-ranging. I enjoy talking about music. These interviews don't often fall within a wheelhouse for me, so thank you for indulging my trips
I love
down
talking music. So.
rock and roll memory lane.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to the SPNN Forum. We have been here with Dameun Strange talking about music in the Twin Cities. He is the co-producer of Live from Minnesota, part of the Minneculture program with KFAI, funded by the Minnesota State Arts Board. Please make sure to tune in and see us again soon, and thanks for watching.